One of the most common questions that I get asked in my comment section is what are connections and how can I fix them? Now, in Town to See, if you don't master connections, your residents are not going to be happy and your town's going to crumble. So in this video, I'm going to show you a step-by-step guide on not only what connections are, but how to improve them and get your residents to 100% happiness like this. I'm Harry from Power Plays and I cover tips and guides for management sims just like Town to City. So if you like it, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Now let's dive in. So what are connections and why are they important? Connections are what link all your shops, food stalls, housewares, entertainment and public buildings to your residential buildings. And without these connections, the residential buildings won't be serviced, and that means they won't be getting that happiness boost. You can get happiness boosts for multiple different shops, different food stalls, and it's just going to increase your overall town happiness. Now, all your commercial buildings need to be linked to a warehouse, and the further those buildings are away from that warehouse, the more of a demand it's going to take up. So essentially, connections are the mechanic that decides which houses get to use which buildings. Now, each building is going to have its own production levels. Now, the demand on those production levels is essentially what residents are within the range of that building, and you really need to leverage your connections when demand outstrips your production level. Now, for the question I get asked the most in my comment section is, what are the green and blue houses and what does it mean? Now, there's actually also another colour, and it is no colour at all. So let me find a building. Yeah, the bakery, you can see that these houses here don't have any colour, and that means they're not being served by the bakery at all. If they're green, it means they are being served, and if they're blue, it means they're being served by another building of that exact same type. So as you can see here, all these houses are being served by the bakery. I've got a production of 200, but a demand of 268. That means that these buildings here aren't going to be getting served. So if you click on it, you can see that there is no bakery in the food section. Whereas you click on this residential building, you can see the bakery is giving it a happiness boost. Now let's pick a building where I've got two of them, and that's the opticians. Now the greens are being served by the optician I've currently got clicked, and the blues are being served by my other optician. So all houses are being served here, but it just depends on which building you've currently got selected. As you can see, the blues and greens are now flipping. So why are connections so important? Well, they're one of the biggest contributors to resident happiness. As you can see here, each connection is directly boosting happiness. It starts off with a 6% boost, then goes 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And there are actually some researches that you can do which is going to boost that happiness even more. Tastier meats from the butcher being one that springs to mind, that gives you a 5% boost to happiness straight off the bat. Now you can see each different house is going to have different connections, which is going to impact happiness, along with the decoration and the population density. But the needs happiness is the one that increases it the most. So do not underestimate sorting out your connections, especially for your more luxury residents. It's going to fix your happiness. And if you want to boost my happiness levels like your residents are going to be after watching this connections video, then please make sure you subscribe to the channel. Help me hit that 4K target by the end of 2025. Manually editing connections is so important, especially later on in the game when you get those more luxury residents. You can see here that these buildings need 26 luxury as a minimum. Now, if you just drop these houses just anywhere, then they're going to end up being unhappy. You want to make sure that you're manually editing your connections to make sure that you're covering it. So you can see the jeweler here is covering all of my luxury buildings. So's the clockmaker for an extra 4 luxury, and then my kiosk theatre for an extra 1 luxury. Now, if it's not covering it, you can click the gear icon there and essentially click on the houses you want to cover or you want to be removed from cover. So you can see here, I've removed the luxury. It's now dropped down to 31, 34, and 34. And when I add it back, it's going to bump it back up. Now it's really important when you click on the manual connections, you have a quick scan. Are your highest luxury buildings covering your most luxury residents? Because otherwise your happiness is just going to drop and you're not going to be able to progress through the level. Now, an easy way of seeing whether the buildings are even in range for your most luxury residence is by clicking on the commercial building and seeing, is the road green? Now you can see this jeweler's got a production of 180, but look at the demand. It can stretch really far. You can see pretty much my whole town is lit up in green there, because it could stretch all the way to the very right. So what you're going to want to do, if I put a luxury resident building over there, you're going to want to untick it and tick it just to make sure that it's covering the right place. Don't miss out on this. Something which people do not realize is the impact on the location of your warehouses can have on the number of workers that you need. As you can see, I've got a few warehouses, a couple of small, a couple of large, none of them at full capacity, but they're all close to the action. And that's because I want to lower the overall amount of workers that I need in my warehouse. Also, upgrading your roads can have a big impact. So let's just move this warehouse and you can see the chaos it's going to cause on my town. So I'm going to put it to the edge of the map. I'm going to do a very poorly drawn road, but you can see the demand I was having was 1,400. Now, because it's out of range, because it now costs so much more to deliver these products, it's now dropped all the way down to 340, and it just cannot serve all these shops it was previously sorting. Now, if I upgrade the road, it's going to essentially extend the range that it can fulfill, and it's also going to lower the overall cost of some of the individual locations, which is going to result in it being able to fulfill a lot more demand. That's now jumped up to 575. But just moving the warehouse just that tiny bit has now meant everything's back in range and it can fulfill quite a lot of demand. But like, just watch that. The happiness was 47, and just moving it back down to here, happiness is going to absolutely boost. And look at that, everything going straight back up to 100%. So just do not miss out on upgrading those roads and just making sure that your warehouses are in exactly the right place. Even just tweaking them, moving them slightly is going to result in overall you reducing the amount of workers that you need in your warehouses. So my top tips on connections, especially when your demand outstrips your production, is using that gear button to manually edit your connections, especially when you've got those luxury buildings in sight, or as I said, when your demand outstrips your production. If you're not doing that, you're going to leave happiness on the table. Also, making sure you're just playing around with your warehouse location, as you literally just saw. Moving it slightly can have a massive impact, especially on the number of workers which you have tied up in your warehouses. You can end up having, an extra 5, 6, 7 workers just by moving your warehouse slightly to a more prime location. Another top tip, especially when you're having happiness issues, is just clicking on your residents, using a filter to see which residents are having that dip in happiness and seeing what connections aren't they getting. You can even see sometimes residential buildings here, the bistro is actually serving a house and it's giving it a 0% bonus. So let's just remove it from the connection and make sure it's serving a house which potentially doesn't have as many food items. So that's everything you need to know about connections in town to city, from what they are, what they look like, how to improve them, how to boost happiness, and even tweak that warehouse efficiency. Now, if you've enjoyed this, do make sure you subscribe to the channel and check out my top tips and my top player mistakes video linked down below. Thanks for watching.